guys, and welcome back to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Today, I'm going to answer a question that I've spoken about previously, but I never made a dedicated video. And it's actually a question I've gotten quite a bit, and that is, where exactly do gray market dealers, so gray market or any dealers that are not authorized dealers, where do they get their new watches to sell? And how come they're selling them at a discount? Why is a Speedmaster on Joma Shop, $3,700, but at the Omega Boutique it's over $4,000? Where are these guys getting their watches, especially considering that the brands, they only sell to authorized dealers? And that's what I'm going to cover today. Of course, before we get started, customary wristwatch check. Today I'm wearing the Rolex Hulk, matches my shirt. Yes, that was premeditated. Love this watch. And also, quick little shout out to DelReyWatch.com. Just got a bunch of new watches in. A ceramic sub, an Explorer 2, both white and black dial. We have a Jaeger on sale in the hot deal section, along with a bunch of other watches that are currently discounted. And also, guys, if you want to see me make a complete fool out of myself, go check out the video I released 2 days ago where my partner John basically forced me to wear a Santa costume on YouTube. Not my finest moment, but, link in the description below to that. It was a little bit of fun. So yeah, where do gray market dealers get their inventory? Well, I've broken it down to basically 3 places, and I'm going to explain it the best I can. But before we explain that, I have to let you guys know the average margin for a watch is between 37% to 50%. 37% for brands like Cartier, 50% for brands like Corum. So what does that mean? That means that an authorized dealer buys the inventory at between 37 to 50% off. That is what they're making on the product, what the dealer's making on the product if they sell it for full price. So for example, if a Corum is $4,000, the dealer paid $2,000. If a Rolex sub is $8,000, the dealer paid, minus 40% or 37%. Every brand has different margins, but they're between 37 and 50%. And that is very important for this video. So the first place gray market dealers buy these watches is unfortunately from the brands themselves. Something that the brands call closeout, where they take old inventory, inventory that's been sitting around, that's been unsold, and they sell it for well under these 37 to 50% margins. Sometimes the margins can be 70 to 80%. They heavily discount it to move the product. Now, to give you an example, I worked for a few brands. I know what this process is like. At the end of the day, every month, your boss expects you to hit your quota, hit your goal. Let's say your goal is $1 million a month in sales. You might miss it 4 or 5 months, but eventually you're going to get fired. So you do anything possible to try and hit that number. So what a lot of times these brands do is they'll dump older watches on the gray market with permission from the higher ups. And another tricky way they do it is a lot of companies are split into subsidiaries. For example, Breitling USA is actually might be a different company than Breitling North America. I don't know about Breitling specifically, but for example, Richemont North America is different from Richemont Switzerland. And even though they're technically under the same name and ultimately controlled by Switzerland, they don't communicate much. So an American subsidiary might go and dump stock in Asia to not hurt their market, but then an Asian subsidiary might come and dump their dead stock in America or Europe. So it's actually quite tricky. I mean, everybody does it, but it's a little taboo. And it doesn't happen all the time. Actually, recently this has really got, cut down. Brands have actually been buying back their stock. Richemont has bought back a lot of their stock instead of dumping it, because ultimately it does hurt the brand in the long run. But yes, a lot of these gray market watches come from the brands themselves. They're just older inventory, and they dumped it to get some profit. Now, the second place the stock comes from is from authorized dealers themselves. Now, guys, remember, authorized dealers are forced to buy inventory to keep their AD status. So, a lot of times it makes sense for them to dump watches at break even, so 437 to 50% off, or even at a loss. That way they can keep ordering and they ultimately will not lose the brand. They might lose a little bit of money now, but they won't lose the brand. Another way that it's done is brands very often raise their prices 2 to 8% per year. Not so much recently because the watch market is soft, but in the past it was not uncommon for a brand to raise the price every year. So if the price gets raised every year, so let's say you went 3 years in a row with a 5% increase, you make a 15% higher margin on the piece, and the new cost is also 15% higher. So if an AD has had that piece in stock for 3 years, they're making 15% more, so they can sell it at an even deeper discount to the gray market and still break even and not lose money. It's actually quite tricky and it gets quite mathematical, but essentially the older the inventory, the more margin you have in it, and the cheaper you can sell it without breaking even. Also, a lot of ADs are small businesses. They have cash flow issues. Sometimes they have to dump inventory to pay the bills and essentially order more inventory. Also, another way it works is, sometimes a gray market dealer will go to the AD and they say, listen, I'll take these 20 watches that don't sell well, but you have to give me 3 Daytonas. And the AD, to, kind of get some cash back, will sell these, unpopular watches at a discount, which the gray market dealer will then sell it themselves at break even, but they'll make all their money on the Daytonas. Guys, I know this is kind of hard to follow, but it is, a little tricky sometimes how this business is, and I'm trying my best to kind of explain how it works. And also, remember, a lot of you guys may say, well, listen, screw the brands. The ADs are forced to buy stock. Why don't they just stop buying stock? If they're not selling the brand, then they should just lose the brand. Well, remember, other brands care what brands are in the store. Rolex doesn't want to be in an AD that carries Seiko and Orient. And Patek doesn't want to be in an AD that only carries Longines and Oris. And no brand wants to be the only brand in that authorized dealer. Now, there are exceptions to all these rules. So ADs are scared of losing brands because they fear of a domino effect. Well, listen, if I lose Breitling now, who's the next one to go? Omega? And if I lose Omega, then what? Do I lose Rolex? So, guys, it's really a very complicated and nuanced way this works, unfortunately. And then the third way, gray market dealers get these brands is from ADs that are going out of business. When an authorized dealer loses their AD contract or they're closing down shop altogether, they can call the brand and request the brand take back their stock. Most brands won't do this because if they take a return, it goes against their quota for the month. And the director of sales is going to look really bad. So most of the times the brands say, screw you, we're not taking anything back, we're going to, you can keep it. Which case the AD calls the gray market and be like, hey guys, 70% off, I need my money back, who wants it? And a lot of times, they'll sell it and they might not pay their bill to the brand and they'll just get sent to collections, but they're going to file for bankruptcy anyway, so it doesn't affect them. Or they will just pay the balance off. It really depends. It's a very tricky business, but essentially the 3 places these brands come from are from the brands themselves. Watches come from the brands themselves. They come from ADs through a complex network of aging inventory and putting together deals, and from ADs losing their partnership with the brand or going out of business that need to dump some stock. So it's fairly simple. If the margins are 37 to 50%, Gray market is happy to sell them at 40% off because they bought them at 50% off, so they're only making 10%, which is fine. Or realistically, what really happened is even though the margins are 37 to 50% off, they probably realistically bought them for 70 to 80% off, and they'll sell them at 40% off, so they'll still pretty much double their money. Not so much on brands like Rolex, but on other brands, the margins are much higher, and they will get discounts. Essentially, the ADs will lose money, or the brands themselves will sell it well below their wholesale price. Guys, I know this was a confusing video. I hope you can follow me. This question was asked a bunch of times. I thought it'd be interesting to answer. But essentially, yeah, that's where the watches come from. They come from the brands and authorized dealers with cash flow issues. Let me know if you found this useful. Please leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd like to know if you guys want to see more of these industry insider videos. Also, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more content. Guys, thank you so much, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.